Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 66 of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. Welcome aboard. We have a question from Orlando, and this question hits kind of close to home for me. My wife is 3 months pregnant, and we've been looking for a program she can do the length of the pregnancy. So far, we've been using Easy Strength, and I'm thinking we will continue to cycle the program until her pregnancy using the same but different approach on the 5 major movements: hinge, squat, push, pull, and carry. Do you think Easy Strength would work well during a pregnancy, or would you advise something different? Should we be looking to maintain strength, or will this approach yield strength gains despite pregnancy? Also, do you have any suggested modifications? Lastly, what program would you consider postpartum after she gets cleared to resume working out? I was thinking of a modified form of the post-deployment program from Attempts. Well, there's a lot there to unpack, Orlando. First off, congratulations to you both. First and foremost, the health of mother and child are most important. That's it. There's my whole response. It's interesting you write me right now. My daughter is about the same place you guys are in the pregnancy. And, as her father, I have concerns. I worry. Fortunately, she's past that first trimester and she's not vomiting every single day. My daughter Kelly trained throughout her entire pregnancy. I often use a picture of her doing back squats, very pregnant, with my grandson Danny. But she's using a Smith machine, so the joke being the only times you can use a Smith machine is if you're 8 months pregnant, which I thought was funny, but people didn't think it was funny as I thought. They defended that monstrosity. I think I would prefer you kept the reps a little bit higher. Easy Strength is easy, and every rep is supposed to be strainless. But let's just say, let's err on the side of caution. Let's keep the reps a little bit higher. I like the idea of push, pull, hinge, squat. The loaded carries, you're going to find those to be not very valuable very soon, as she's going to have in her own built-in loaded carry. I think you want to think more like bodybuilding and general training. Try not to do anything too fancy. Try not to do anything that will cause any problems at all. Health of mother and child first. Number 2, we're going to train to feel good and move. And then the third thing would be, the fundamentals are perfect. One of the things I want you to start thinking about, Orlando, is the both of you taking daily walks, which we know is very helpful. So yes, lift. Make sure it's cleared with your doctor. Make sure everything else is going fine. Err on the side of caution for the next 6 months as a personal favor to me and to your child. And by the way, Danny is a great name for a child. Danielle is very nice. Hope for the best for both of you. Certainly think more bodybuilding now versus trying to get ready for the Olympics. Now, postpartum, once she's cleared, I have some friends who are much better qualified than I am on this pelvic floor issues, but I would, and in fact, if any of our listeners have any good insights on pelvic floor, please share them in the comments. I'm certainly no expert. I have some people I work with who are, but it is interesting that the people I work with will tell me that oddly things like the goblet squat and the hip thrust are very good to kind of get back in shape. My best to you, and thank you for sharing that information. We have an interesting question from Ben. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where I grew up, in South San Francisco. We've had unhealthy air quality for weeks at a time this summer due to forest fires. I know about that, and bless you all. I expect it to continue through the fall. On days when walking outside, it's not safe or healthy. I have lifelong asthma, so I'm extra careful. And, COVID too. I mean, that's a trifecta there. I've been substituting sports-style one-arm kettlebell swings with the moderate weight, 25 to 30 reps every minute on the minute for a couple of 10-minute cycles. I can keep my heart rate in line with Maffetone numbers because I'm pretty efficient, but it's solid work, yeah. Does this approach make sense? Do you have any other thoughts on long walk replacements? It's interesting because I'm such a big fan of walking, and yet you give us good reasons to not. I hope the air quality inside your place is good. I'm hoping you have filters of some kind. The only thing I do like the idea of the kettlebell swings. I prefer the two-handed swing for most people, but if you're good at it, that's fine. You might want to consider, we do this marching in place, holding a kettlebell, and that, of course, developed into what we call the vertical the vertical bird dog series, which I really enjoy using with the older population. Marching in place with a kettlebell in one hand is really an interesting way to stimulate the entire spine, and I'm sure it builds muscles, as you'll discover the day after you do it. You get weirdly sore in some places. Obviously, gym memberships are tough right now with COVID, so you've kind of, and I don't even mean to make this a joke, but you've kind of entered the perfect storm of issues. The fact that you're striving to find things are fine. Try the march in place with the suitcase carry. Try that. You can also certainly go to the overhead carry and the rack carry on those. We do this for up to 15 minutes. We call it the cook drill. And I got to tell you, of all the things I've done, that I've never looked more forward to a finish line in my life. So yeah, you can do some things at home. Here's the thing, Ben, and this is what I like about your question. You are trying to figure out what to do in this pandemic. You're trying to figure out what to do during this time of forest fires. The fact that you're using your brain is great, and that's going to pay dividends for a long time in your fitness career. So good luck to you. Just one simple idea, and then, of course, jazz and improvise from there, okay? Thank you. We have a question from Chris. I am currently utilizing some programs from Dan John University, and I'd like to mix it up so I don't get bored. I find your programs perfect for this. Well, thank you. I am using kettlebells, club bells, TRX, body weight, and Pilates. My cardio comes from 30-minute circuit type workouts and some vigorous walking and swimming. I tend to work out alone, but I was contemplating getting a personal trainer. I'm thinking it's PT. Can also mean physical therapist, to monitor my technique and progress. Can you give me any tips on what to look for? Is this the best idea, or are there any other self-tests you can recommend? Apart from max weight, are there any other strength tests? Since you know my material, it seems, I deal with this all the time. First off, I have this mantra, if you coach yourself, you have an idiot for a client. So I'm a big fan of personal trainers. But one thing I want you to think about straight up, Chris, is if it's just technical feedback, post your videos and then put them on the forum at the university. You'll have a whole bunch of eyes on it, including mine. Make sure you remind me you did it so I can see it. For a personal trainer, Chris, I don't know where you live, but I'm guessing from a couple of the ways you spelled certain things, you might be in England or Ireland. I would say, depending on where you are, I can help you. But I'm a big fan. There's some really good people in both places. If you want to ping me an additional email, maybe I can help. We can connect the dots between some of my friends, some of the people I know, and yourself. What are you looking for in a personal trainer? One thing, someone who thinks that your progress is the most important thing. If they're spending all their time flexing the mirror or showing off their six-pack, you're probably not going to have a very good trainer normally. There are some who are good. You want someone who has a good eye for squat technique and has a good eye for hinge technique. Those are the two things I always look for. Because the other stuff, any jackass can tell you they walk 10 minutes on a treadmill. I don't know why you'd pay someone to do that. Or a 5-year-old can count your reps for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, watching my grandchildren learn how to count. It reminded me how complex our counting system is. As for self-tests and some of the other stuff, in my book, Can You Go? I have the 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment, stand on 1 foot, the 2 measurements, the 3 questions. But I have several strength standards, and if you go online, you type in my name and Sleepless in Seattle, you'll get my standards for everything. There are some basic ones I think I'd like to share with you. First, I think you should be able to do a standing long jump of your, you should jump as far as you are tall. You should be able to do a farmer walk with your body weight. Those are the 2 general ones. Those are my, okay, if you can't do that, then we talk about some other things. Certainly, Chris, and this is always difficult with a name like Chris, I don't know if you're male or female, but I would suggest looking at the Sleepless in Seattle standards, and here's the key to them. They go from 1 to 7. I would rather you to be 4 1s than a 7 in one thing, a 3 in another, a 4 and a 1. I like to see you as a nice, I don't want you to be a flat tire, okay? So look at those, and then get back to me on those other things I asked you about, okay? Thank you. We have a question from Nigel. I love the video you posted about hydration, which is just a silly one. Don't worry about it. And the magic product you called water. Yes, I invented water. I read a book recently called Ready to Run, and in this book, he recommends adding a pinch of salt to your water in order to help improve hydration for a whole host of benefits. I've also been listening to Rob Wolf, who highly recommends salt and electrolytes for a multitude of reasons, disclaiming he does not sell the product. Any thoughts or recommendations? Well, Nigel, if you read Arnold, the Education of a Bodybuilder, he recommends the same thing. We used to call it magic water. We would take the juice of a lemon and add just a pinch of salt to our big water things. Nigel, because of your name, I'm guessing you're not an American. The last thing most Americans need is more salt in their food. Does it work? Yeah, I mean, basically those magic drinks you can buy at the store, basically is just a little bit of sea salt. I mean, a tiny bit of sea salt with a ton of sugar. Can you make your own? Sure. I always like the idea of adding lemon juice, and you can get it concentrate. We have these little packets here at the home that are for their lemon crystals or something like that. Yeah, I mean, there's some value to it. I hope you don't think, Nigel, that that's the thing that's holding you back from being the Olympic champion. It is on the list of things that's going to impact performance. I would say adding sea salt or whatever to your water is going to be fairly low. Having said that, if you are in a situation, a humid area training, you're training high volume, lots of sweating, you need to keep an eye on those things. I recommend, if you know my work, I recommend fermented food several times a day. If you're eating fermented foods like sauerkrauts, kimchis, well, a whole host of others, I make my own. You are getting an appropriate level of salt in those things. You might even want to save yourself a lot of time and hassle. Here in Utah, we have a drink called a pickleback. That's a Jameson shot followed by a pickle juice shot. And maybe that's the way you ought to get your electrolytes, the good old-fashioned way, high-level training. One thing, if you ever do have a hangover, some people I know really do swear by drinking pickle juice. You could also take it prophylactically to help yourself as an athlete. But just remember, it's a small thing. You know, your sleep, your basic protein and veggie intake, your water intake generally, push, pull, hinge, squat, load, and carry, those walking, those are so much bigger than this small addition. I'm not being negative about it. I'm just saying, in the big picture of things, it's a small change. Thank you. We have a question from Matt. My number one physical activity is parkour. We all know parkour from The Office, you know, parkour, parkour. Probably the best opening, I think, in the show's history. I have a lot of difficulty fitting in my strength work without it being too taxing and distracting from my sport. Being that there's a ton of sprinting and high impact, I have found excessive strength training to be taxing, but I'm aware of the need to improve maximal strength to avoid injury and to improve power output. Do you have any recommendations on how to best train for parkour? Matt, I mean, if you're doing parkour, you pretty much are doing everything. You're running, you're jumping, you're climbing, you're doing those fence muscle ups, you know, those. Um, I would suggest that if you're doing any weight training at all, it's to be done as a. I'm thinking more like how I would train a marathon or a 10K person here. Yeah, I mean, weightlifting is going to help you, you know, in some ways, but it is not. It's not the meat and potatoes of what you're trying to do. I see one of two options here. I would suggest push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. Okay, but either very, very low reps in an easy strength protocol, or moderate reps in the traditional, you know, those 15 to 25 range. It seems as I'm reading this that you're telling me that the strength training is getting in the way of your parkour, and parkour is the thing you love to do. This is one of those times where why don't you continue practicing your parkour and slowly, easily bring weightlifting into it. So you might even want to strive for something as simple as a while of one set of 10 and a push, a pull, a hinge, and a squat. Bye-bye. And slowly over time add it in. This is a unique kind of question because what you're telling me is that this conditioning you're doing is hurting what you love to do, and that's never a good idea. I know that doesn't make sense yet, but I think it will over time. Now, downstream, Matt, I think you're going to want to slowly build in more and more hypertrophy and mobility work just to complement the parkour work. I don't know how long you can do parkour. I don't know if there's a lot of injuries in it, but it seems to me that this is a really good thing to do. Thank you. Dave asks a simple question. When and why did you begin training with kettlebells? First time I saw kettlebells in a book called Track and Field Omnibook in 1971. And then when the Soviets came out to compete in the USA-USSR track meet, I saw their throwers at CSM throwing these bizarre little weights with handles on them. That's the first time I ever saw them. So I think that's 78, the summer of 78. Yeah, I'm almost certain it's summer of 78 because the reason I don't remember it as well is I'm still dealing with that concussion. I saw kettlebells being used by the Soviets throughout my whole career, and it wasn't until, I guess, the rebirth of the kettlebell with the RKC and all that. And, the first kettlebell I ever touched was at the National Superweights Championship. It's the first time I ever touched one, and it was just such a poorly run event. We were supposed to be done by noon. I still had 4 events to go. 5-event day. I still had 4 events to go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a poorly run event, and one of the guys I'd met online showed up, and he said, you know, because it was raining on the whole time. God, it was miserable. Seattle, rain, cold, miserable. Supposed to throw at 9. Hadn't yet done my first throw at 2 o'clock. And he went into his vehicle and pulled out this kettlebell, and he showed me how to swing. And I thought, oh, about 10 seconds into swings, I'm like, you know, sweating and I'm heating up, and it's like, okay, this makes sense. And then I had another buddy. I was getting ready for a track meet down at University of California, San Diego. It had been 2004, I think. And he showed me how to kettlebell snatch. And then I went and spoke at a kettlebell convention, and I won. They had these little contests, and I won a 28 kilo bell, which became my first and only bell for a long, long time. And that's how I trained up in 2008 for the kettlebell cert. All I have is a 28. So I did the snatch test with a 28 with an oven glove on, which kind of made me think that I got a good chance of passing this with a 24. So it just slowly became part of my life. When Gill Athletics offered me this chance to buy 113 kettlebells, I think it was, I don't want to tell you the number because I don't want anyone to make phone calls, for a really cheap amount of money. That's when we went to a lot more kettlebells in my strength coaching with my teams and my sports. So we became very barbell, kettlebelling. And when I moved to California, all I had was my 28 kilo bell again. And so I started from scratch again. So that's, it's been floating around my life for about 50 years. And I certainly know the advantages of kettlebells, and I certainly know the advantages of barbells, and I know the advantages of suspension trainers and everything else. And that's one of the things I try to do in my head, Dave, is keep that stuff straight. The right tool for the right job. And kettlebells fill that niche. So thank you. Good question. We have a question from Charlie. I'm a 33-year-old former college and NFL offensive lineman. I'm 6'6" and used to weigh 325 pounds, but have dropped to 285 pounds. I have been retired from football for 7 years, and I've been working at a career in law enforcement since I retired from football. I have joint issues, nagging injuries, and the beginning of arthritis. However, I have continued to try hard and train in the manner like I did when I played, which was powerlifting, strongman type training. I think right there, Charlie, you've already answered one of the big questions. I always tell people, if you're over the age of 22 and not making money in a sport, you no longer should train like you're in the sport. However, I have discovered that my body cannot take these style of workouts anymore, especially with the demands of law enforcement and my joint issues. The past year, I bought some kettlebells, 53 and 70, and have enjoyed them immensely, but I have no real set program. I am looking for a workout routine that can help sustain some strength, mobility, and endurance for law enforcement, and one that can be sustained long term. Any feedback, suggestions would be much appreciated. I hate to do this. Someone got on me because I always recommend getting a membership to my site, but if you go to danjohnuniversity.com and you go to the workout generator and you put in the equipment you have around the house, and you tell the generator how many days a week you want to work out, at what intensity level, you will get a workout for you that is going to do mobility, strength, hypertrophy, some flexibility, some tissue work, some cardio work, and it's all built in. The reason I'd like to give you, it's going to be push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded, carry. It's going to be mobility work. Well, the system will give that to you. So it's kind of already built in for you. And it bothers me in a way I can't make it clear. Now, one other thing I really would like you to think of, you didn't mention what kind of law enforcement you're in, but if you're in a patrol car, one of the things I really want to make sure you do in your training is keep your hip flexors very pliable, and you do that with the hip flexor stretch, the goblet squat, and hinge work. So no matter what you choose to do, make sure those are the basis of your training. If you're at a desk job or in a car all day long, in both cases, you're constantly in that this bound up position in like this that I'm always in when I'm doing these podcasts. I hope that helps. Charlie, if you have any questions more, please send them in and we'll help you. Maybe I can do it more personally with you. Thank you. We have a question from John T. John T asks, I've been trying to teach myself the Olympic lifts at home, having done the power versions on and off for a while. I have a deep, stable front squat and overhead squat, but I really struggle to pull myself under the bar and hit these positions after the initial portion of the clean or snatch. And I often find myself shooting my hips out shooting my legs out wide to try and lower myself further down, no matter how much or how little weight is on the bar. What do you recommend I do to try and get better at this? For reference, I'm 22, reasonably athletic, 170 pounds at 6 foot, with the best front squat of 117.5K and a best power clean of 90K prior to lockdown. Slowly raising these numbers back up again, with my weight also looking to rise towards my natural 185. I'm keen to boost my cleanable weight as high as possible, as I have an Olympic bar and weights but no rack, so I can't squat any more than I can clean. I had the same issue. Yeah, well, obviously, Jonty, as I'm typing this, it looks like we're heading for another major lockdown because of COVID, and you're not going to be able to do the simplest answer of all is getting yourself either with a coach or another Olympic lifter. It's always strange about Olympic lifters. Once you go to your first Olympic lifting meet, you'll discover that someone about half a mile, 5 minutes from your house, trains at home too. It's the strangest thing about Olympic lifting. We're like scattered everywhere. So I've had several Olympic lifting coaches. Dave Turner, who I work with now, with the recently resurrected Hercules Barbell Club. And one of the things he does with his athletes a lot is they take those broomsticks and up to 20 minutes. Now, those of you listening have no idea how difficult what I'm about to say is. For 20 minutes one time, with our broomsticks, we did snatch and clean and jerk. And it doesn't sound like much, but I don't know how many times I squatted in that 20 minutes, but we were probably doing 6 to 10 reps a minute, more than that. And I was completely saturated with sweat at the end of it. Maybe it has to go all the way back to a broomstick or a PVC pipe for you to just practice getting underneath it. And I would suggest you rep it to death with the broomstick. And just don't worry, because with the broomstick, you can stop yourself in mid-flight. I mean, you can get the weight to here and stop, make sure your feet aren't jumping, and then jump underneath it. And then jump underneath it. And remember, I got this from a Soviet friend of mine. The key, especially in the snatch, is this here, this flick, this snap and drive, okay? Whenever I think that, I naturally get into a better bottom position. So a coach or another trainee, number one, and I get how difficult that might be. Number two, the PVC pipe, the broomstick idea. Number three is, this is something, it's a little drill we do here. It's from the floor, power snatch into overhead squat, and then bring the bar down to the hang, and hang snatch it, put the bar to the ground, and squat snatch it. And we have found, it's called the drill. It's much more difficult than it sounds. But with the drill, do number two, the second piece of advice first, and then attempt the drill. Power snatch, overhead squat, hang snatch, snatch from the floor. Try that. And Jonty, it's gonna be a lot of self-exploration to figure this out. Without an eye on you, it's gonna be a little bit harder too. Thank you. We have a question from David. My question is regarding the 10,000 swing challenge. I'm 47 years old and just completed the first 1,000 swings. So this won't be a timely answer, but thank you. The problem I'm having is if I swing over 15 reps per set with my 24 kilo bell, my heart rate shoots up well over the 133 beats per minute. So he's using Maffetone's number. Is this okay for the challenge, or should I do lower reps per set? Well, since it's just a challenge, you certainly could argue that don't worry about your heart rate. If you were to be doing this all 12 months of the year, I would say, maybe you want to work on that heart rate, keep that a little bit lower. It is interesting to see you get your heart rate up to 133 with 15 reps at the 24. That's good to know. I mean, that'll be a good point later on to come back to. This is like this data point that you can say, okay, in a couple of years, you have the 32 and you get to 15 reps and it's 133. You know you made progress. So that's why I always like data points. I think it really helps. For the challenge, you have two options, okay? One is, for the 10,000 swings, not worry about the heart rate. Or play within those Maffeyton numbers and do the one way. You swing the bell to the heart beats, and whatever that number is, you go. So you pick it. You start every day at 0, boom, 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 beep, 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 rest. More swings, beep, 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 rest, and just keep adding those numbers up to get to the 500. Or the second option, of course, is just get through those 4 weeks and pat yourself on the back. I think both options are valuable, and I wouldn't mind seeing you do either each option a 10,000 swing challenge, or in one workout you do the heart rate monitor one, and the other one you just do them, and just see which one you prefer. Finally, a follow-up question. Also, I plan to follow this up with Kettlebell Easy Strength, which has 2 sets of 20 to 50 kettlebell swings. So, they're not 20 to 50 total reps. You can do them any way you like. And if you decide, for you, David, I want you to do 50 total reps. So that's a set of 5 and 3 sets of 15. That's 5 sets of 10. On the Easy Strength programs, reps are always negotiable. Even if you line up on the bar and say, you're going to do a set of 5, and you lower it after 3, that's fine on the Easy Strength protocol. Hope that helps. We have a question from Scott. In a previous podcast, you said you thought one of the reasons the squat was great for mass might be because it doesn't rely upon the grip. Yeah, I think the fact that the hands, they're squeezing, but they're fairly relaxed, allows turns the brain off freak out mode when you come to those higher reps. I don't know, but that's just my thought. In the last few months, I've started to add in handstand push-ups against the wall as is pressing movement, and saw some of the best increases in size and strength I've had in years. Maybe because it's another exercise that doesn't rely upon the grip. What do you think? Well, it's interesting, because when I was young, a lot of guys thought the 2 best mass building exercises were dips and squats. Scott, you might be I'm agreeing with you. The dip and the handstand press up, those are kind of grip-free movements. This kind of grip, this grip. Obviously you're using your hands, your grip, but it's not I've never failed on my grip on a dip. I don't know if I possibly could. Yeah, Scotty, you might be onto something here. This is, I think I might have just learned something. I appreciate that. Thank you. Maybe so. Maybe that's why it is easier to build mass on machines for some people. Now, having said that, very often people who build mass on machines don't always do well in the field of play. And I get that. Bodybuilding is this and performance is this. The mistake people make is they constantly try to bring them together. Scott, thank you. That's a great insight. We have a question from Bert, and I get a lot of these questions. I am a Thai boxing and BJJ instructor from Belgium. I'm always amazed how many people in the fighting arts email this podcast. We have a large group of very different people from all ages, genders, and backgrounds. In the current situation, we're forced into non-contact training, so we do mainly heavy bag training, which is great. I was thinking of starting a small group kettlebell class, since weight training has given me so much health throughout my own martial arts adventures. I can have people once a week for 30 minutes before and after a heavy bag, and I'm thinking about swings, goblet squats, push-ups, and presses mainly. Well, Bert, this is fantastic. This is great. I'm hoping to encourage them to buy their own bell for home use. This isn't easy since there's barely a strength training culture in our community. Yeah, that makes it more difficult. I'm mainly wondering about programming, which moves are worth our time. How can I keep them safe, but also give them obvious results, which motivated me to keep weight training for years? Should I focus on linear progression? No. For a few exercises, or is just a lost cause? Yes, with probable irregular attendance. And should I just pick a different workout each week? Okay, I can help you some. First off, I have that book called The Hardstyle Kettlebell Challenge. If you Google my name and kettlebell programming, you'll find classic conditioning in 10 moves, which ties in well with your ideas here. But also things like the humane burpee, which, here's what I want you to do, Bert. Go to my website, danjohn.net. I want you to pull, it's a free PDF called the Coyote Point Kettlebell Club. It's free, it's 51 pages. It outlines all the exercises with some programming at the end. We improved on some of the programs later. That's what I want you to do. Okay? What you want to do, you're right. It's push-ups, it's goblet squats, it's swings, it's mobility exercises, and it's one-stop shop for you. Go grab it, look at it. If you have questions, get back to me. You'll be happy you did that. Tony writes us, I heard you mention in passing on a recent podcast that you recommend 6 to 8 week period of no train at all. Yeah, I mean, 4 weeks for sure. 6, if you can do it, I can't. 8 would be on the top end of a yearly off season. I don't know if I could ever do that. Of no train at all. Okay. I took this little nugget to heart due to the fact that my forced resting season is upon me. Now, instead of being bummed out and depressed about not being able to train, I'm completely at peace with my inactivity. And my question is, in this 6 to 8 week period, do you recommend no train at all? Could I lift on a nice Saturday or Sunday for fun? I've been thinking about doing some body weight stuff like push-ups or pull-ups to kill the time. I guess I would just like to expand on the notion of a yearly 6 to 8 week period of rest and what to start after the rest period is over. My diet is solid, so I'm not worried about weight gain, but for a 5-day-a-week trainer, no activity at all is difficult. Yeah, I hope you didn't read too much into it. That's actually for performance athletes, but I don't mind this. Here's the thing, a year is 12 months, and I think basically about 2 months a year you should go for it. For most people, it's January and May, getting rid of the Christmas fat and then getting ready for the bikini season. But you should also have a month in there somewhere where you kind of just take it easy. And I've noticed through here in the United States that basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, it kind of depends, is a lot of people don't train then anyway. So why not just throw your arms around Thanksgiving and New Year's as I'm going to take it off. And it doesn't mean you get fat. And yes, absolutely go for walks. And if you have any issues that you need to do mobility for or whatever, please do that. Can everybody do it? No. I'm one who can't. I'm like a dog. If I don't get my exercise, I get grumpy. I do recommend on that rest that you do something very proactive in the kitchen. So that would be like during that rest period, you cook every meal. Your training is learning how to ferment food, learning how to barbecue, learning how to saute new vegetables, trying new recipes, that kind of thing. I can't believe I said 6 to 8 weeks because I've never done that in my entire life. I think 6 would be my max. But during that time, try to be very active in the world. Like this would be a great time to play games. This is a great time to walk. By the way, I don't consider things like, if you're not a racing bicyclist, me riding my bike is not training. It's going out and having a good time. But playing any sports you can think of that are fun and low grade and you're not going to get into a fist fight or anything, that's what you want to be doing, Tony. Now, because of COVID, you probably can't play those sports, but try to find those things you can do. Walk. I would love to see you walk every day during your off period. I'd love to see you learn a new cooking method. I'd love to see you make the world a better place. I hope that helps, Tom. We got a question from Liam. I was wondering if there's anything wrong with only doing front squats rather than back squats. Liam, if you know my work, you know that all I ever did my entire career was front squats. I got nothing out of back squats. Nothing. Well, I did get a distended belly, but we'll talk that's for another. My training centers around the Olympic lifts, so I believe there's much more benefit. To doing front squats rather than back squats, as I feel they have better carryover. Am I missing anything by eliminating back squats from my training? Nope, I don't think so. Remember, here's how I teach squats. Goblet squat, overhead squat, front squat, then back squat. I was reminded not long ago about a day we had one day in the weight room where I had back squats written because we had finished this whole hard program, and I decided to ease it up for the kids. And I guess several of the kids said, "What's a back squat?" And the older kids go, "It's when you hold it here." Oh, okay. And they went in never having done a back squat in their life to a back squatting workout. So that's, if you can overhead squat, you can back squat. If you can front squat, you can back squat. So I'm a big fan of that, Liam, and thank you so much. Well, that does it. Thanks again for your questions. And if you do have questions, remember, send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one. Thank you.